The affluent executive, known for his formidable stature, surprised the humble janitor with a lavish gown, then invited her to accompany him to a pivotal business negotiation. As dawn's gentle light barely kissed the horizon, Jonathan Blake made his grand entrance through the revolving doors of the towering skyscraper that served as the nerve center of his vast business empire. Each step he took reverberated through the marble-clad lobby, while the enticing aroma of freshly brewed coffee permeated the air, weaving a sense of urgency and importance into the atmosphere. Clad in a flawlessly tailored suit, and with a resolute expression etched upon his face, Jonathan exuded an undeniable aura of dominance. His mere presence compelled employees to instinctively stand a little straighter, their reverence palpable. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. As he boarded the elevator, a barely audible sigh escaped Jonathan's lips, betraying the weight of the relentless pressure he was under. The dark shadows beneath his piercing blue eyes spoke volumes of countless sleepless nights and the mounting stress of a high-stakes deal teetering on the brink of collapse. Investors wavered, and Jonathan was acutely aware that he required something extraordinary to seal the deal. When the elevator doors finally parted on the top floor, he was met by his stalwart assistant, Sarah. A dedicated woman of middle age, her efficiency and unwavering support had been cornerstones of his success for years. "Good morning, Mr. Blake," she greeted him warmly, extending a steaming cup of robust black coffee. "The reports you requested are waiting on your desk, and the video conference with Tokyo is set for 10 a.m. Jonathan acknowledged her with a nod, processing the information as he made his way toward his office. It was then that an unexpected sight caught his eye. A middle-aged woman, dressed in a modest janitor's uniform, was diligently polishing the corridor windows. What struck Jonathan was not merely her presence, but the sincerity in her smile and the passionate commitment with which she performed her tasks, a stark contrast to the frigid corporate environment that surrounded her. "Sir, are you certain about this?" Sarah's voice carried a mix of doubt and concern. Jonathan's resolute nod was his only answer. "Absolutely. There's something unique about her and authenticity that could be just the touch we need to seal this deal." His voice was steady, though internally he wrestled with the uncertainty of his decision. Inviting a janitor to a pivotal negotiation seemed reckless, even perilous for his business. Yet a deep, compelling instinct assured him it was the right choice. As Sarah departed to execute Jonathan's unconventional request, Jonathan found himself questioning his sanity. It was a bold, uncharted move, one that could potentially jeopardize his reputation and the deal itself. Still, a nagging sense of correctness drove him forward. Later that day, as Emily Carter was wrapping up her shift, Sarah approached her with an elegant package, her expression a blend of formality and bewilderment. "Mrs. Carter," Sarah began, her tone laced with both professionalism and an undercurrent of surprise. "Mr. Blake would like to see you in his office immediately." Emily glanced at her own worn hands and the stains on her janitor's uniform, her heart racing with confusion. "Me? But why?" Emily's voice wavered with uncertainty as she looked at the package Sarah handed her. "He asked you to wear this," Sarah replied, her voice barely masking her surprise. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she unwrapped the package, revealing a breathtaking navy blue dress. The sight of the luxurious fabric left her speechless, her eyes widening in astonishment. "There must be some mistake," Emily whispered, her voice quivering with disbelief. "There's no mistake, Mrs. Carter," Sarah reassured her with a firm, yet kind tone. "Please change into the dress and proceed to Mr. Blake's office." Moments later, Emily, now transformed and visibly anxious, stood before Jonathan's office door, her heart pounding with each knock. As she entered, she was enveloped by the opulence of the room, which took her breath away. Jonathan rose from his desk to greet her, his gaze lingering on the striking change in her appearance. The dress, a perfect fit, brought forth an innate grace in Emily that she had never recognized in herself. "Mrs. Carter." Jonathan's voice was unusually gentle. "Thank you for coming. Please have a seat." Emily hesitantly settled into the plush leather chair, feeling a profound sense of disorientation and unease. "Mr. Blake, I don't understand. Why am I here?" she asked, her voice a blend of confusion and trepidation. Jonathan studied her intently, the weight of his decision evident in his eyes. "Mrs. Carter," he began thoughtfully, "I have been observing you closely. Your unwavering dedication and genuine authenticity are rare gems in a world dominated by pretense. These qualities are exactly what we need to navigate and close a critical deal tomorrow." Emily's eyes widened in shock. "Me? But I'm just a janitor. What could I possibly contribute to a high-stakes business negotiation?" A rare, sincere smile touched Jonathan's lips, revealing a glimmer of the warmth and conviction driving his decision. "Sometimes, Mrs. Carter," Jonathan said with a reassuring tone, "it is exactly what we perceive as our greatest weakness that turns into our greatest strength. Your unique viewpoint and unwavering honesty could be the very edge we need to make a difference." As Jonathan laid out the specifics of the deal and outlined the role he envisioned for her, Emily was engulfed by a tumultuous blend of fear and exhilaration. This was an opportunity so far beyond her wildest dreams, a chance to reveal that there was more to her than her humble role suggested. I'm not sure if I can do this," Emily confessed, her voice quivering with a blend of uncertainty and trepidation. Jonathan leaned forward, his gaze steady and encouraging. "Emily," he said firmly, "I have faith in your abilities. More than that, I believe this is your moment. Life sometimes presents us with unexpected chances. It's our responsibility to muster the courage to embrace them." Emily took a deep, steadying breath, feeling the profound gravity of the choice before her. It was intimidating but also thrilling. It was her chance to validate her worth, to demonstrate to herself and the world what she was truly capable of. "All right," she replied, her voice gradually gaining confidence. "I accept." Jonathan's face broke into a rare, genuine smile that transformed his typically stern demeanor. "Excellent," he said warmly. "Prepare yourself, Emily. Tomorrow we're going to make a remarkable impression." As Emily exited the office, she felt as if she were floating. The opulent dress, the unexpected opportunity, and the trust Jonathan had placed in her all seemed surreal. But it was undeniably real, and Emily sensed that her life was on the cusp of a profound transformation. Jonathan stood by his office window, gazing out at the sprawling city below, his mind swirling with the implications of the decision he had made. The risk he had taken was undeniable, yet a profound intuition reassured him that it was the right path to follow. Tomorrow promised to be a day of fresh opportunities and, perhaps, the beginning of an extraordinary collaboration. He could almost feel the weight of impending change in the air. Before dawn had even fully arrived, Emily Carter awoke with her heart racing in anticipation of the day ahead. The navy blue dress, a symbol of the unexpected twist in her life, hung in her modest closet like a beacon of possibility. As she prepared her simple breakfast, her hands trembled with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. Each action seemed imbued with a sense of significance, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the unfolding of her new reality. "You can do this, Emily," she whispered to herself, gazing at her reflection in the kitchen window. The woman who looked back at her appeared determined yet apprehensive, her eyes reflecting a potent blend of fear and hope. Precisely at 8 a.m., the doorbell rang with a crisp chime. Emily opened the door to find Sarah, Jonathan's assistant, accompanied by a team of stylists and makeup artists. The sight was both overwhelming and surreal. "Good morning, Mrs. Carter." Sarah greeted with a warm, professional smile. We're here to assist you in preparing for the meeting." Emily's throat tightened as she struggled to process the unexpected grandeur of the moment. I wasn't prepared for all of this," she stammered. Sarah's smile softened with understanding. "Mr. Blake wants to ensure you feel both comfortable and confident today. Shall we begin?" The following hours were a whirlwind of transformation. Luxurious creams caressed her skin, her hair was washed and styled with meticulous care, and her nails were expertly manicured. Each step of the process was a new and extraordinary experience for Emily, sometimes overwhelming, yet occasionally delightfully surprising. As the makeup artist worked on her face, Emily couldn't help but reflect on the dramatic shift in her life over the past 24 hours. Just yesterday, she had been a janitor, largely unnoticed amidst the office's bustling activities. Today, she was being prepared for a pivotal meeting that held the potential to alter the course of a multi-million-dollar enterprise. "Is everything all right, Mrs. Carter?" asked the makeup artist, her voice laced with concern as she noticed Emily's distant expression. Emily blinked, pulling herself back to the present moment. Yes, I'm fine," she replied, though her voice carried a hint of disbelief. "It's just that all of this feels so surreal." The makeup artist offered a sympathetic smile. "Sometimes the most extraordinary moments in life are the ones we never anticipate. And by the way, you look absolutely beautiful." Emily gazed into the mirror, barely recognizing the reflection before her. Her face was aglow, her eyes enhanced in a way she had never dreamed possible. It was as if a hidden, more radiant version of herself had been unveiled. At last, it was time to don the dress. Sarah gently assisted Emily in slipping it over her frame, adjusting the fabric with meticulous care. "Perfect," Sarah murmured, stepping back to take in the final transformation. Emily turned to face the full-length mirror, her breath catching in her throat. The dress fit like a glove, accentuating curves she hadn't realized she possessed. For the first time in her life, Emily felt a profound sense of beauty and self-worth. "You're ready," Sarah said, glancing at her watch. "The car is waiting downstairs." The journey to the office passed in a daze for Emily. She stared out of the luxury car's window, feeling like a character from a modern fairy tale, grappling with the sense of being an outsider in this opulent world. As they arrived at the company building, Emily could feel the weight of countless gazes upon her. The moment she entered the lobby, murmurs and astonished glances followed her every step as she made her way towards the elevators, with Sarah by her side, a silent guardian amidst the sea of curious eyes. When the elevator doors slid open on the top floor, Jonathan Blake awaited her, impeccably attired in a dark gray suit. His eyes widened slightly at the sight of Emily, and a genuine, approving smile spread across his face. "Mrs. Carter," he said, his tone softer and more intimate than usual. "You look stunning." Emily felt a warm flush spread across her cheeks, overwhelmed by a mix of pride and nervous anticipation. "Shall we begin?" Jonathan's voice cut through the tension as they entered the conference room. Emily's nerves were taut with anxiety. The room was filled with high-profile investors, their expressions guarded and expectant. Jonathan introduced Emily with a confidence that contrasted sharply with her apprehension. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emily Carter. Her perspective today will provide us with something genuinely unique." The investors exchanged puzzled glances, their skepticism palpable, as they took in the sight of a janitor at such a pivotal meeting. Emily took a deep breath, her heart pounding under the weight of their scrutiny. Jonathan gestured for her to start. "Good morning," Emily began, her voice wavering but resolute. "I am Emily Carter. While my background is not in business, I believe that sometimes the most valuable insights come from the most unexpected places." With raw honesty and clarity, Emily shared her thoughts on dedication, authenticity, and the importance of looking beyond superficial appearances. As she spoke, a hush fell over the room. Emily's words resonated deeply, cutting through the usual corporate jargon with a refreshing honesty. Her genuine passion and straightforward perspective offered a striking contrast to the polished and often impersonal rhetoric of the business world. For the first time, the investors began to view Jonathan's vision through a new and enlightening lens. When Emily concluded her presentation, an introspective silence followed. The investors started to murmur amongst themselves, their initial skepticism giving way to curiosity and respect. Jonathan cast a proud, approving glance at Emily, acknowledging the profound impact she had made. The mood in the room had shifted dramatically. The once cynical investors were now actively engaged, their interest piqued by the authenticity and insight Emily had brought to the table. As the meeting drew to a close, the investors filed out, their expressions reflecting a newfound appreciation for Jonathan's bold and unconventional decision. Jonathan turned to Emily, his face radiating gratitude and admiration. "You did an extraordinary job today," Jonathan said, his voice full of genuine warmth. "Thank you for being so brave and insightful." Emily's heart swelled with a mix of relief and pride, knowing that her unexpected journey had made a meaningful difference. "You did an outstanding job today, Mrs. Carter," Jonathan said, his hand clasping hers with genuine firmness. His eyes, usually so steely, softened with respect and appreciation. "Thank you for your invaluable contribution." Emily's eyes glistened with tears of both relief and elation, her emotions bubbling to the surface. "Thank you, Mr. Blake, for this incredible opportunity. It means more to me than words can express." Jonathan offered a warm, heartfelt smile. Sometimes, making the right decision requires the greatest amount of courage. Today was one of those times. As Emily walked out of the conference room, she felt an unprecedented sense of achievement. Her life had been transformed in ways she had never imagined possible, and the horizon now brimmed with new and exciting possibilities. "You did an extraordinary job today," Jonathan said, his voice full of genuine warmth. "Thank you for being so brave and insightful." Emily's heart swelled with a mix of relief and pride, knowing that her unexpected journey had made a meaningful difference. "You did an outstanding job today, Mrs. Carter," Jonathan said, his hand clasping hers with genuine firmness. His eyes, usually so steely, softened with respect and appreciation. "Thank you for your invaluable contribution." Emily's eyes glistened with tears of both relief and elation, her emotions bubbling to the surface. "Thank you, Mr. Blake, for this incredible opportunity. It means more to me than words can express." Jonathan offered a warm, heartfelt smile. Sometimes, making the right decision requires the greatest amount of courage. Today was one of those times. As Emily walked out of the conference room, she felt an unprecedented sense of achievement. Her life had been transformed in ways she had never imagined possible, and the horizon now brimmed with new and exciting possibilities. Emily was sitting at her new desk, a modest but elegant space in the corner of the executive floor. The room was a symphony of sleek furnishings and modern decor, yet Emily felt a sense of overwhelming unfamiliarity. Her fingers glided nervously over the computer keyboard as she tried to absorb the information on the screen. Graphs, spreadsheets, and financial terms danced before her eyes, a whirlwind of data that she struggled to comprehend. The numbers and jargon seemed to swirl in a chaotic dance, and despite her best efforts, she felt as though she was grasping at straws. Jonathan Blake entered the office with his characteristic firm, determined step. However, the subtle signs of exhaustion in his eyes were unmistakable. He had been working long hours, yet his presence exuded an air of unwavering resolve. As he approached Emily's desk, he offered an encouraging smile that seemed to infuse the room with a renewed sense of optimism. "How are you getting on, Emily?" he asked, his voice low and gentle. His tone carried a warmth that was both reassuring and motivating, as if he genuinely cared about her progress. Emily looked up from her screen, meeting his gaze with a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. Her eyes reflected the uncertainty she felt. "I'm trying, mister," Blake, she admitted. "There's so much to learn, and it feels like I'm swimming in an ocean of information. I'm doing my best to keep up, but it's overwhelming." Jonathan nodded understandingly, his expression softening. "You're doing well, Emily. More than well. I've been keeping an eye on your progress, and I'm impressed with how quickly you've adapted to the new role. That's why I have a new challenge for you." Emily's heart raced at the mention of a new challenge. Her initial feelings of trepidation gave way to a flutter of excitement and nervous anticipation. "A new challenge," she repeated, her voice tinged with curiosity and a hint of apprehension. She leaned forward slightly, eager to hear what Jonathan had in store for her next. Jonathan's eyes sparkled with a mix of pride and expectation. "Yes, a new challenge. I believe you're ready for it. It's an opportunity to stretch your abilities further and prove just how far you've come. I'm confident that you'll rise to the occasion." Emily took a deep breath, her mind racing with possibilities. The prospect of a new challenge was both exhilarating and daunting. She looked at Jonathan, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. "Yes," Jonathan confirmed, his eyes shining with a mixture of enthusiasm and concern. "The investors were impressed by your unique perspective. They want to hear more from you, so I've decided that you're going to lead the next presentation for them." Emily felt the blood drain from her face, her breath catching in her throat. "Me? But Mr. Blake, I barely understand half of what's in those reports. How can I possibly lead a presentation?" Jonathan leaned in, his voice low and intense, conveying a sense of urgency and conviction. "Emily, you have something that none of these executives in expensive suits have: a genuine insight into the heart of this company. That's what the investors want to hear. They're not just interested in the numbers. They're looking for a human connection to the story behind those numbers. Don't worry about the specifics of the financials, leave that to me and the finance team. Your job is to convey the human story that those numbers represent." Feeling the weight of responsibility fall heavily on her shoulders, Emily wanted to protest, to voice her concerns and say she wasn't ready for such a monumental task. Yet, something in the unwavering confidence in Jonathan's eyes made her hesitate. There was a deep, unspoken trust there that compelled her to consider the possibility that she might be capable of this challenge. "When is it?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking the words out loud would make the challenge more real. "Friday," Jonathan replied, his tone firm yet reassuring. "You have 2 days to prepare. I'll assign a team to assist you with anything you need. They'll provide you with all the support and information required to ensure you're fully prepared." As Jonathan walked away, his confident stride and purposeful demeanor left Emily feeling a wave of panic threatening to engulf her. The enormity of the task ahead began to sink in. 2 days to prepare for what could be the most important presentation of her life seemed both exhilarating and impossible. The next 48 hours passed in a frantic blur of activity. Emily plunged headlong into the reports, working tirelessly to decipher and understand every nuance of the business. She spent countless hours sifting through data, studying financial trends, and making sense of the intricate details that had once seemed impenetrable. Her days were filled with interviews. She spoke with employees at all levels of the organization, gathering stories and insights that could bring the cold numbers on the spreadsheets to life. Each conversation added a new layer of depth to her understanding, and she meticulously worked to weave these personal stories into a coherent narrative. Emily's dedication was unwavering. Her nights were spent poring over her notes, rehearsing her presentation, and refining her message. She knew that this was more than just a presentation. It was a chance to make a lasting impression and validate Jonathan's faith in her. As she worked, Emily began to notice glances and whispers around her. Some were filled with admiration and curiosity, while others carried an undertone of envy and resentment. Richard Hawthorne, in particular, seemed to watch her with a mixture of disdain and concern. His sharp eyes followed her every move, and Emily could almost feel the weight of his judgment. The night before the presentation, Emily was in her new office, surrounded by piles of papers and empty coffee cups. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were red with fatigue from the countless hours she had spent preparing. The room was a chaotic blend of half-finished reports and scribbled notes, evidence of her relentless effort. Then, she heard a soft knock on the door. To her surprise, it was Lily, Jonathan's daughter. "Hi," Lily said shyly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the office equipment. "Dad said you were still working. I thought you might want a bit of company." Emily looked up, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten as she felt a wave of gratitude for the unexpected kindness. "Thank you, Lily. I'd love some company." As Lily settled into a nearby chair, Emily couldn't help but notice the striking resemblance between father and daughter, the same determined eyes and strong chin. Yet there was a softness in Lily, a vulnerability that Emily suspected Jonathan also possessed, hidden beneath layers of responsibility and expectations. "Dad talks about you a lot," Lily said after a moment's silence, her gaze thoughtful. "He says you're changing things around here." Emily felt a blush creep up her neck, her cheeks warming at the compliment. "Your father is very kind. I'm just trying to do my best." Lily tilted her head, her eyes reflecting genuine curiosity. "What's it like going from janitor to this?" She gestured around the office, her expression a mix of fascination and intrigue. Emily paused, considering the question. The journey had been overwhelming and transformative. "It's been quite a journey," she admitted, her voice carrying a mixture of pride and awe. "There have been many challenges, but it's also been incredibly rewarding. Every day feels like a new opportunity to learn and grow." Lily nodded, absorbing Emily's words. "It sounds like you've worked hard. I know Dad is proud of you, and so am I." Emily smiled, the warmth of Lily's words providing a much-needed boost of encouragement. The two sat together in comfortable silence, the tension of the impending presentation momentarily eased by the simple act of companionship. Jonathan returned to his office, looking at the pile of papers on his desk with fresh eyes. He picked up the bereavement counseling leaflets, deciding it was time to face his grief head-on. As he prepared for bed, Jonathan reflected on the day's events. Emily's courage in the meeting room and her kindness on the phone had triggered something in him. A change was beginning, not just in his professional life, but in his personal life too. Tomorrow would be a new day full of challenges but also possibilities. For the first time in a long time, Jonathan Blake was looking forward to facing it. The office was buzzing with activity that Wednesday morning. The usual buzz of conversations and the incessant ringing of telephones created a familiar symphony of business and progress. However, for Emily Carter, every sound seemed amplified, echoing in her ears like a constant reminder of the new and unfamiliar world she had entered. Emily was sitting at her new desk, a modest but elegant space in the corner of the executive floor. Her fingers glided nervously over the computer keyboard as she tried to absorb the information on the screen. Graphs, spreadsheets, and financial terms danced before her eyes, a whirlwind of data that she struggled to comprehend. Jonathan Blake entered the office, his firm, determined step contrasting with the obvious tiredness in his eyes. He had been burning the candle at both ends. He paused at Emily's desk, offering an encouraging smile that seemed to inject a bit of warmth into the otherwise cold corporate environment. "How are you getting on, Emily?" he asked, his voice low and gentle, conveying a sense of genuine concern. Emily looked up at him, her expression a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. "I'm trying, Mr. Blake. There's so much to learn, and it's all quite overwhelming." Jonathan nodded understandingly, his gaze reflecting confidence in her abilities. "You're doing well, Emily. More than well. That's why I have a new challenge for you." Emily's heart raced at the mention of a new challenge. She braced herself for what was to come. A new challenge? Yes, Jonathan confirmed, his eyes shining with a mixture of enthusiasm and concern. "The investors were impressed by your unique perspective. They want to hear more from you. So I've decided that you're going to lead the next presentation for them." Emily's face went pale as she processed the news. "Me? But Mr. Blake, I barely understand half of what's in those reports. How can I possibly lead a presentation?" Jonathan leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a low, intense whisper that carried a sense of urgency. "Emily, you have something that none of these executives in expensive suits have: a genuine insight into the heart of this company. That's what the investors want to hear. Don't worry about the numbers, leave that to me and the finance team. Your job is to tell the human story behind those numbers." Emily swallowed hard, the weight of the responsibility settling on her shoulders. She wanted to voice her concerns, to say she wasn't ready for such a monumental task, but Jonathan's unwavering confidence made her hesitate. There was something in his belief in her that compelled her to consider the possibility that she could rise to the occasion. Emily swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility fall on her shoulders. She wanted to protest, to say she wasn't ready, but something in the unwavering confidence in Jonathan's eyes made her hesitate. When she finally asked, when Jonathan replied, "You have 2 days to prepare. I'll assign a team to help you with anything you need." As Jonathan walked away, Emily felt a wave of panic threatens to engulf her. 2 days to prepare for the most important presentation of her life. It seemed impossible. The next 48 hours passed in a frantic blur of activity. Emily plunged headlong into the reports, working tirelessly to understand every nuance of the business. She interviewed employees at all levels, collecting stories and insights that could bring the cold numbers on the spreadsheets to life. As she worked, Emily began to notice glances and whispers around her. Some were filled with admiration and curiosity, while others carried an undertone of envy and resentment. Richard Hawthorne, in particular, seemed to watch her with a mixture of disdain and concern. His eyes followed her every move, adding to her growing sense of unease. The night before the presentation, Emily was in her new office, surrounded by piles of papers and empty coffee cups. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were red with fatigue from the relentless preparation. Then she heard a soft knock on the door. To her surprise, it was Lily, Jonathan's daughter. "Hi," said Lily shyly. "Dad said you were still working. I thought you might want a bit of company." Emily smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude for the unexpected kindness. "Thank you, Lily. I'd love some company." As Lily settled into a nearby chair, Emily noticed the striking resemblance between father and daughter. They shared the same determined eyes and strong chin, but there was a softness in Lily, a vulnerability that Emily suspected Jonathan also possessed, hidden beneath layers of responsibility and expectations. The presence of Lily, with her gentle demeanor and supportive offer, provided Emily with a much-needed break from the pressure she was under. For a moment, the tension of the upcoming presentation seemed to ease, replaced by the comforting realization that she was not alone in this challenging moment. "Dad talks about you a lot," Lily said after a moment's silence. "He says you're changing things around here." Emily felt a blush creep up her neck. "Your father is very kind. I'm just trying to do my best." Lily tilted her head, her eyes curious. "What's it like going from janitor to this?" She gestured to the surrounding office. Emily thought for a moment. "It's scary," she admitted. "Sometimes I feel like I'm pretending, like at any moment someone will realize that I don't belong here. But then I remember why I'm doing this. It's not just for me, you know. It's for all the people who work here, whose voices aren't always heard." Lily nodded, an expression of understanding beyond her years crossing her face. I think I understand. It's like when Dad has to make difficult decisions. He always says it's for everyone's good, even when it's hard. Lily's words hit Emily hard. She suddenly saw Jonathan in a new light, not just as the powerful CEO, but as a man carrying the weight of countless responsibilities, trying to do the right thing. With renewed determination, Emily went back to work, now with Lily as her makeshift assistant. Together, they organized notes, practiced parts of the presentation, and even laughed a little. The tension of the last few days finally dissipated. When the sun rose on Friday, Emily was exhausted but ready. She looked at herself in the mirror, adjusting the new suit that Jonathan had insisted on buying for her. She was no longer the shy janitor of a few weeks ago, but neither was she the polished executive some had expected her to become. She was something in between, something unique, and she was beginning to realize that this was exactly what made her valuable. As Emily entered the conference room, she felt all eyes on her, the investors, the executives, Jonathan, all waiting to see what she would do. For a moment, fear threatened to paralyze her. Then she remembered Lily's words, Jonathan's trust, and the employee stories she had collected. She wasn't just here for herself. She was here for all of them. With a deep sigh, Emily stepped forward. It was time to tell her story, the story of the company, the story of the people behind the numbers. As she began to speak, her voice gaining strength and confidence, she knew that no matter what the outcome, she had already overcome her biggest challenge, believing in herself. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on her. Emily Carter was about to show the world what she was capable of. The morning sun had barely begun to filter through the office windows when Emily Carter arrived. Her footsteps echoed in the silence of the executive floor. She was carrying not only her briefcase but also the weight of the unexpected success of her presentation the previous week. The investors had been impressed. Jonathan was elated, and Emily felt like she was walking a tightrope, balancing precariously between two worlds. As she settled down at her desk, Emily noticed the furtive glances from the other executives. Some were of admiration, others of ill-concealed envy. Richard Hawthorne, in particular, watched her with a mixture of suspicion and resentment that made Emily feel uncomfortable. "Good morning, Emily." Jonathan's voice surprised her. He was standing next to his desk, a tired but genuine smile on his face. "We have an emergency meeting in 5 minutes. We need you there." Emily nodded, feeling a wave of anxiety. She still wasn't used to being included in these high-level meetings. Following Jonathan into the conference room, Emily couldn't help but notice the tension in his shoulders and the way his hands clenched nervously as he opened the door. The atmosphere inside was thick with urgency and unease. The meeting room, usually a place of collaborative energy, now felt like a battleground. The executives were huddled around the table, their faces etched with worry. The figures for the last quarter were dismal, and the atmosphere was charged with panic. As the meeting commenced, Emily took her place at the edge of the room, trying to blend into the background. But the rising voices and the volley of accusations quickly drew her into the fray. "We need drastic cuts," Richard Hawthorne declared, his voice sharp and unyielding. "Starting with the maintenance department. It's an unnecessary expense that we can outsource." Emily's heart sank. She thought of her former colleagues, dedicated individuals who had always been the unsung heroes behind the scenes. Their hard work and loyalty kept the company running smoothly. The thought of their jobs being on the line stirred something deep within her. Without fully thinking it through, she found herself standing up, her voice trembling but resolute. "With all due respect, Mr. Hawthorne," Emily began, her hands gripping the back of a chair for support, "I think that would be the wrong decision." The room fell into a sudden silence, all eyes turning towards her. Emily felt her cheeks flush with a mix of embarrassment and determination. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. These people aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They are integral to the company's daily operations. They understand every corner of this building, every recurring problem, every creative solution that keeps things running smoothly. Outsourcing these roles would mean losing not just employees, but a wealth of knowledge and a deep-seated loyalty that's invaluable. Richard's gaze was cold, unyielding. "And what do you suggest, Miss Carter? That we maintain unnecessary spending while the company heads towards collapse?" Emily could feel the weight of every moment she had spent working alongside these employees, every late night and early morning she had endured. She knew that this was not just about business, it was about the people who made the business what it was. "I'm not suggesting that we ignore the financial reality," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "What I propose is that we explore alternative methods to achieve efficiency without sacrificing the invaluable knowledge and dedication of our existing staff. Perhaps we can find other areas where we can cut costs or improve efficiencies. But let's not forget that our employees are our greatest asset. They are not just a line item in a budget. They are the backbone of this company." Jonathan's eyes met Emily's, a flicker of pride and something like admiration reflecting in his gaze. He cleared his throat, turning to the rest of the room. "Thank you, Emily. I think we need to give serious consideration to her perspective." The room buzzed with murmurs as Jonathan continued, his voice steady and authoritative. "Emily's point is valid. Our employees bring more to this company than just their labor. They bring insight, experience, and dedication that can't be easily replaced. We need to be strategic about how we handle this situation." The discussion continued, now with a more measured tone. Jonathan supported Emily's viewpoint, advocating for a balanced approach. They explored various alternatives, streamlining processes, improving efficiency, and offering retraining programs for employees. It became clear that the solution was not to make sweeping cuts, but to address the issues more thoughtfully and strategically. As the meeting drew to a close, the mood had shifted from one of crisis to cautious optimism. The executives, though still concerned, seemed more open to finding solutions that respected both the financial constraints and the human element of their business. The compromise was reached. They would focus on targeted efficiency improvements and explore ways to support and retrain existing employees rather than resort to across-the-board layoffs. Emily left the conference room feeling a mix of exhaustion and relief. The weight of the moment had been immense, but she had managed to advocate for what she believed was right. The respect she had gained from her colleagues, the support from Jonathan, and the acknowledgement of her perspective were affirming. As she returned to her desk, she saw Richard Hawthorne watching her, his expression unreadable. She wondered what he thought of the outcome and how it might affect her future interactions with him. But for now, Emily allowed herself a moment to appreciate the small victory she had achieved. The day went on, with a sense of cautious optimism pervading the office. Emily continued her work with renewed vigor, knowing that her voice had made a difference. She was learning that her role in the company was more than just a position. It was an opportunity to bring about positive change and to bridge the gap between different worlds. When she finally left for the day, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city. Emily took a deep breath, feeling a sense of accomplishment and hope for the future. She had faced her fears, advocated for her colleagues, and contributed to a solution that respected both the business needs and the people who made it all possible. As she walked away from the office, she couldn't help but look forward to what the next day would bring. As the meeting concluded, Emily felt a wave of mixed emotions wash over her: relief, triumph, and a lingering thread of disbelief. She had faced one of her biggest challenges yet and emerged not only unscathed but victorious. The support from Jonathan and the acknowledgement of her concerns had fortified her resolve, granting her newfound confidence. It was a small victory, but it was hers, and it felt monumental. As she exited the meeting room, Emily couldn't help but notice the subtle but significant change in how her colleagues regarded her. The glances she received were different, more respectful, more accepting. The respect that had once seemed so elusive was now slowly becoming a tangible reality. It was a shift that, though understated, carried a weight of its own. Emily was acutely aware that the road ahead would still be fraught with challenges. She was only beginning to navigate the complexities of her new role, and corporate life was a world she was still learning to comprehend. The intricacies of financial reports, the labyrinth of office politics, and the unspoken expectations of her peers were all part of the terrain she had yet to fully master. But amidst the challenges, Emily found solace in the realization that her voice mattered. She had managed to effect change by standing up for what she believed in, and this realization imbued her with a sense of purpose. The knowledge that she could influence outcomes and contribute meaningfully to the company's direction was both empowering and reassuring. As she walked back to her desk, Emily felt a sense of belonging begin to take root. It was as if, after all the turbulence and uncertainty, she was starting to find her place in this vast and often daunting world. The office, which had once felt like a labyrinth of alien norms and expectations, was beginning to feel more like a community where her contributions were valued. Emily settled back into her desk, her gaze wandering over the familiar surroundings that now seemed more welcoming. The piles of reports and stacks of paperwork, though still daunting, no longer felt as overwhelming. There was a renewed sense of clarity in her approach, a feeling that she was no longer just navigating the corridors of corporate life, but actively shaping them. The day wore on with a semblance of normalcy returning to the office. The hum of activity, the clatter of keyboards, and the murmurs of conversations blended into a harmonious backdrop. Emily embraced the rhythm of the day with quiet confidence, knowing that she had taken a significant step forward. The respect she had earned from her peers, the trust Jonathan had placed in her, and the subtle shift in the office dynamics were all affirmations of her growing role. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the office began to empty, Emily took a moment to reflect on the day. She had faced a pivotal challenge and had done so with courage and conviction. She had advocated for her colleagues, spoken up when it mattered, and contributed to a solution that balanced the company's needs with the well-being of its employees. Walking out of the office, Emily felt a deep sense of accomplishment and hope. The journey ahead was still uncertain, filled with potential obstacles and learning curves. Yet, for the first time, she felt a genuine sense of ownership and integration in her role. She had proven to herself that she could navigate the complexities of her new position and make a meaningful impact. As she stepped into the evening air, the city lights flickering to life around her, Emily embraced the feeling of possibility. She had taken her first significant stride toward carving out her place in this world, and while the path ahead was still unfolding, she was ready to face it with determination and optimism. As we conclude today's journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the key lessons we've explored together. Emily's story is a powerful testament to courage, resilience, and the impact of standing up for what you believe in. From overcoming self-doubt to advocating for her colleagues, Emily's experiences show us that our voices can indeed make a difference, even in the most challenging circumstances. So, what have you learned from Emily's journey? How will these insights influence your own life and decisions? I'd love to hear from you. Please share one thing you've learned and plan to put into practice in the comments below. Your reflections and experiences could inspire others on their paths. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to leave your comment and make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing valuable insights and stories to you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.